Scared and confused, Galsiash asks the gentleman about the new girl who joined them on the ship. Iga awkwardly says that she should have introduced them back in Tsukahama. She is their new companion. Galsiash says he understands this. However, Iga asks what it is. He says that when he tried to say hello to her, she passed him by. He held out his hand to her, told her his name, and said he was pleased to meet her. But the girl ignored him and only said that it was mutual. People in the Far East don't shake hands. During the meal, she sat in the middle of them. They ate in complete silence, which was very annoying for Galsiash. Iga ate as if nothing had happened. When they were playing cards, Galsiash was happy that he had won and said that Iga was bad at this business because he took the last place. Accordingly, Igarashi took second place. Galsiash turned to her and asked if she also considered Mr. Iga hopeless, but she did not answer him and just continued to look at him without emotion. He even felt embarrassed. He asked her what happened, that she had such a face, but he did not get an answer. Galsiash tells Iga that this girl is really very strange. He also declares that he does not like her at all. But at this point, Igarashi comes up from behind and calls Mr. Iga by name. Galsiash immediately gets scared and quickly makes excuses that he was just joking. The two ignore him, and Iga asks her what the matter is. She holds out her hand and points the direction with her index finger, saying that they have arrived at Tokuma. At Tokuma Port, Iga looks around and awkwardly says, analyzing the condition of the buildings, that he urgently needs to repair this place. He notices a hole from the last place. Galsiash calls him and asks if they can set up camp somewhere right now. Iga says after thinking that it is, because now they have a girl with them. Then Iga remembers and says that Igarashi from Tokuma and her family live somewhere nearby. Galsiash rejoices at this news and says it's great, offering to go there. Here Igarashi says about her family that she is very sorry. Iga does not understand at first, and then thinks that they should not interfere in her personal life. He tells her that everything is fine, and if Igarashi does not feel comfortable staying with them, then he and Galsiash will set up camp outside. He is used to it. Here Igarashi excitedly says that this is no good. Iga backs away from the fact that she is too close. She tells him that this is his own territory. So why does he want to sleep outside? Because he is the new lord. She asks him to be more attentive to the status. He awkwardly apologizes. Igarashi sighs and says she's sorry she lost her temper. She informs me that there should be a shrine on the outskirts of Nakamura. At the moment, it will be a dwelling suitable for a lord. Igarashi steps forward and directs them, saying that they should go up there. Those two awkwardly follow her. Iga does not understand why she is angry. She takes straight and stable steps up, tapping her heels, followed by two tired guys who are ready to crawl from fatigue. Galsiash thinks that she somehow reminds him of that old lady in the mountains, whom they met first at this place. She reports that they are almost there. They arrived at Yoshioka Temple. The head of the temple sees a girl and wonders what kind of young lady she is. She says it's been a long time and introduces herself by saying her name. The old man immediately remembers her and does not believe. Is it really Ek-chan? Those two do not understand what it is. The old man says that she has turned into a beautiful girl. He assumes that Iga is a new lord. He directs them and asks them to go in a certain direction. They obey and follow him. They are served hot tea. They sit down at the table and quietly enjoy tea drinking. Igarashi looks around suspiciously, turning his head to the sides again and again. The old man introduces himself and says that he is the priest of this sanctuary. His name is Yoshioka Juzu. He also says that this temple has been run by 2 generations of his family. Iga notices that Igarashi is behaving very strangely. The priest continues to say that his son will be back soon. He will call him here to greet them. Then the girl interrupts him and asks for forgiveness, and says that there is no need to call Shuhei. Suddenly the door opens and a guy comes in. He sees a girl and calls her Echo. He asks his father why she is here. Igarashi is not happy with his presence. The priest tells him that important guests are here, and that the girl is the new lord's personal assistant. Shuhei stands covered in mud and reflects on the words of the priest and asks about the lord. Then Iga gets up, greets and says that he is the new lord. Shuhei says it's nice to meet him. He turns to the girl and says that it is now clear to him that she has been demoted and hurries to tell her not to get too upset. Igarashi gets annoyed with him. She stands up and says that she was not demoted. The minister was looking for a suitable candidate, and then she volunteered to follow the lord. Iga in the background is also listening and wondering if this is the case. Then she won't hate it. Igarashi asks Shuhei to keep away from her because he is dirty. The guy says there's nothing you can do about it. He says that he has just returned from the construction of the dam. Iga immediately asks, because it's not far from the village on the river. The priest joins in and says that his son is the head of the construction team. Iga smiles and says that this is a big deal. Shuhaya blushes and awkwardly says that this is not the case, and that he is not that good or something like that. Iga tells him that this is such a large-scale construction, so he thought that there should be a great leader there. Shuhaya is modest and says that it turned out to be around the time when the rice fields were supposed to be prepared, so she was postponed until today. Iga tells him that he is really talented for his age. The girl looks at them askance, and then whispers to Iga that this guy is scattering crayfish everywhere. Shuhaya is indignant and shouts that he was a child then, and then she adds that, in addition, he also smashed the head of the statue in the temple. Shuhaya does not give up and shouts that Echo is 2, and that she went to the toilet in bed until she was 12, pointing at her with her finger. Galsiash is surprised by this information. She grabs Iga by the collar and shouts that this did not happen. He doesn't understand why she grabbed him. She keeps screaming that she really didn't do it. In the background, the priest tells her that there is no need to lie, because he saw it himself. Igarashi still makes excuses, saying that it was only once. Hey, it's funny, and he laughs. And the girl is mad at him too. They calmly sit down at the table again. Shuhaya says that he knew that Iga was an adventurer, but, in his opinion, people here will not be able to meet his expectations. They ask him why he thinks so. Shuhaya says that people here are not interested in quests at all. Even if it is the Lord's order, they will not have the desire to do it. Galsiash agrees with him and says that this is true. Even if Iga sends him on an extermination mission, he will not be able to complete this task. Iga shakes his head and says he doesn't understand. He says that the first step of learning is to make everyone want to do it. Igarashi supports him and says that as she expected, Iga already has a plan for this. Iga says that of course there is. He goes on to say that the motivation for fighting is the same as for building a dam. There are 7 villages in this area, and each village tends to stay on its own. For example, if there is a common problem like flooding rivers, then they will have to work together to build a dam. Thus, if they can easily explain that the motivation for fighting is the same as for solving the problem throughout the territory, then they will be just as motivated. Shuhaya thinks about it and says that he understands, and that maybe he is right, if there is any way to do this. Iga confidently replies that there is a way. He says that these are the monsters that live on the west bank. They will destroy them. He explains that everyone lives on the south side of the mountain because of these monsters. If they can destroy these monsters, then people will be able to live there. He says that it is possible to create several new industries. At least there should be a lot of people who are unhappy with the current situation. He is sure that this will be enough to motivate. Shuhei objects that most people don't know how to fight, so how can they defeat all these monsters? Igarashi intervenes here and says with a pleased and proud face that Iga specializes in teaching. Iga says that in the future, among 500 villagers, they will be able to train about 150 people to fight. He will show them all the training skills he learned back at the hero party, so they will soon be able to fight. He adds that, of course, these 150 people will not always complete quests. He means that he is going to gather people from many villages, and he wants them to help each village in difficult seasons. For example, the residents of Nakamura are mostly farmers, so they will do tasks in the off-season, and people from Kimura can participate when their dam construction is delayed due to land preparation. Well, of course. In his opinion, there will also be a few dozen people working exclusively on assignments, but he will try to minimize the impact on the industry as much as possible. If they ignore the industries, they will not be able to become stronger in the long run. Iga exhales and regains his breath, because he said too much in one breath. Then he says that this is his plan for the moment and asks if they will lend him their power. There is an awkward silence. He thinks to himself that this is all he can say now. He silently asks them to give a positive answer. Igarashi agrees, saying that he is going to find out more about what Iga is doing. Galsiash also agrees and says that the master has thought everything out in advance, so he will join them. The priest smiles and says that everything is fine, as long as it does not destroy their industry. He waits for Shuhei's confirmation, who says that it is so. Iga is happy that they agree and thanks them. Iga confidently now says that then Galshias will study the economic situation of the region from tomorrow. He replies that everything will be done. Iga turns to Yoshioka and says that he wants him to act as an intermediary between him and people, who replies that he understood him. He tells Igarashi that she will be his assistant and asks to give him a clean copy of the official bulletin board. They all start discussing plans. Iga thinks it's quite fun. He feels that he has already experienced this feeling, then realizes, remembering that it was with Cross just like in the early days of their group. 3 years ago, someone was looking hard for some Yuri. The girl screams in fright, asking where he is. If he is okay. She reminds him that she is here and calls his name again, asking him to respond. It's Grieco, among the numerous corpses, screaming and calling for Yuri, who most likely died on the battlefield. In the present tense in Tsukahama, men tell her that it is almost impossible to remember what happened 3 years ago. The girl says that she does not ask about what happened 3 years ago. At that time, she broke up with her brother. She heard that someone similar to her brother was seen in this port. Men look at the photo and say they've never seen anything like it. Then the men recognize her as the heroine and ask if she is not the #1 adventurer in the world, whose name is Griko Fantani. Everyone starts to turn around as soon as they hear that name. Griko says quite proudly that it's her. As soon as she confirms this, she is surrounded by a crowd. She asks everyone. None of them had accidentally seen anyone like him before, showing a photo, but they do not hear her and only ask her to sign somewhere or let him shake her hand. She agrees to everything. As a result, she sits with her elbows on the table and exhales, saying that the last few days have been so tiring, but she has not found anything useful. Then she thinks about it and says that the only good thing was meeting with Iga Janes. There's something else she needs to do right now. But anyway, life doesn't always go the way you want it to. She reflects that she can find good companions wherever she stops, but those she really wants to be with always want to go somewhere else. She starts thinking about Yuri, but then slaps herself in the face and says firmly that this is not the case. She gets up and says that she can't put off the quests anymore. After all, she's the best swordsman in the world. If she keeps moving forward, she'll meet Yuri again someday. She is flying like a bullet towards a large forest on some continent. She reflects that perhaps it was this place that the guild staff talked about. The customer said that, in his opinion, it would be an easy quest for Griko. He asked her to help them out, defeat the giant trolls. Giant trolls are 3 times bigger than normal trolls. They are too strong for low-rank adventurers. The customer says that at first he asked for a little hope, but it seems that she is not coping. She says that this is not good. She walks through the forest. She sees that there are much more giant trolls than the reports say, and this is very unpleasant for her. Suddenly she hears someone's long-drawn cry. She immediately starts looking. She thinks that this is probably the voice of the adventurer who came before her. She walks through the woods and sees a little man fighting a monster. This adventurer forces the monster to fly several kilometers through the forest with one blow. Griko stands in shock. She hides behind a tree and wonders if he is not a child, then notes that he is very good at magic. These giant trolls are not easy targets at all. The number of giant trolls is significantly reduced after his violent attacks, like sharp spears piercing through enemies. Griko wonders if he's going to be okay because he's using fire attacks one after another. The child really launches several attacks in a row and then breathes heavily. His body has softened. While he was recovering his breath, Griko came out of the bushes and asked if he needed help. Their eyes meet. The boy looks at her for a long time. For a second, Griko thinks that it's Yuri, but then she changes her mind and does not understand what is wrong with her. It's been 3 years. Her brother should be older. First of all, their faces are not even similar, and their hair color is completely different. The boy asks after a long silence who she is. She immediately introduces herself as the magical swordswoman Griko Fantani. The boy immediately learns that she is the one who occupies the first place in the world. Griko smiles broadly and says that's it. She says she heard that he was struggling with the task, and the poet Wanna came to the rescue. Suddenly, she sees that the boy is drooping. Suddenly, he starts shouting at her to stay away, and that this is his prey. Griko tries to calm him down, but he shouts at her to shut up because she annoys him. Griko shouts at him that there is a huge troll behind him. He does not have time to react and flies away from the monster's blow. Griko shouts at him, calling him Yuri at first, then comes to his senses and calls him a boy. Griko steps forward and says it's her turn now. Then the kid yells at her to wait. She turns around and sees him get up and say that he will become #1. He raises his hand, over which a huge flame abruptly appears. The trolls see this and start screaming. Griko wonders what kind of horror it is. At that age, he mastered the highest level of explosive magic. She ponders, and then shouts at him to wait, because if he throws him at such a distance, he will be caught by an explosion. He does not hear and launches his fireball. Such a blow left a huge hole on the ground. Griko holds this child in his arms and thinks what makes this child go so far. She gently puts the child on her lap and uses her magic to heal him. She smiles and says that looking at him now, he doesn't look at all like a young adventurer who just destroyed giant monsters. He looks just like a sleeping little girl. Suddenly, the child turns to the side and fidgets with a sweet smile. She says, "Did he really like her abs so much?" The boy opens his eyes and realizes that he is lying on her lap and touching her abs. The boy immediately blushes, gets up from her lap and tries to justify himself, laughs loudly, and says that there is no need to be so shy. Grieco says that he is still a boy, and that at his age, there is nothing strange in the fact that he is attracted to the press in such a bulletproof vest. The boy hides his eyes all red and says, "That's not the point." As a result, the boy gets up with a kind attitude towards her and says that he needs to return. Grieco freezes in doubt at first, and then tells him if he wants to, then why not join her? There is silence. Grieco thinks to herself that she said it out loud so that she would not regret it later. The boy apologizes and says he needs to go back to his teacher. Grieco awkwardly asks if he really has a teacher. The boy turns to her and says that he respects him very much. Grieco is surprised by such a wide and warm smile. The boy says he is very sorry. Grieco says there's no need to apologize. She can't do anything about it. Suddenly, the boy gives a fist to her abs. She does not understand his actions. The boy asks that she is number one, and then declares that in the future he will be number one, and then he will let her go on an adventure with him. Grieco laughs loudly and says that he is a cheeky kid. The boy laughs too, waves to her and says goodbye, saying that he is leaving and that they will see each other soon. Grieco remembers something and asks his last question, what is his name? She immediately begins to justify herself, that does he understand that if he does not tell her his name, then even if he becomes number one in the whole world, she will not know that it is him. The boy thinks about it and says that she is right. Finally, he says with a big smile that his name is Mori, and then says that she is a girl, the strongest sorceress, whose name is Mori Luckstrom. Grieco freezes in place, fascinated by her charisma. Here Chiyo is very red and confused lying on the floor. Iga hovers over her, who asks her permission, and she agrees. Chiyo says that she is still a little scared. Iga tells her that everything will be fine and that she needs to relax. Iga himself does not understand how this happened, so he remembers the events that happened a month ago before this situation. In the temple where they stopped at night and met the priest and his son, Igarashi diligently draws hieroglyphs. Iga stands next to him and says that she is very smart, and she thanks him, blushing a little. Iga does not know the language of the Far East at all. He is glad that he has it. He asked Igarashi to make an announcement board for him. If he puts up a board in every village, the elders of all the villages will know about his existence and what he wants to do. Suddenly, someone comes to them and addresses Iga as a lord. Iga greets and says that she must be Shuhei's wife. The girl apologizes for distracting him, then informs him that they received the package. Iga is happy and says that it has finally come. He placed a lot of swords, bows, and other weapons. He has ordered many weapons and tools to equip the units he intends to organize. Iga asks her if she could help him move these things to his room. She coughs awkwardly and says that there are a lot of goods here. Indeed, there are numerous boxes in front of him, which are filled with weapons. Iga says he bought too much out of excitement. Iga is puzzled. He says that he cannot leave all this with the Yoshioka family for long, so he needs to do it now. Igarashi suddenly approaches him and says that he now needs his own mansion. He gets scared and immediately moves away from her. He asks which mansion she is talking about. She replies that, after all, Iga is a lord. Iga, surprised and uncomprehending, asks how he can build a mansion. Then the priest intervenes and says in that case, let him talk to the best carpenter in the village. Iga says that he would be very grateful. Then he asks how much it will cost. The priest says that of course it will not be free. Iga immediately reflects that he had 22 million bonds. Now he has 12 million left in the bank and 3 million on hand. Only 15 million, and Galsiash is to blame for everything, who framed him when they met. The priest says that if he can pay him properly, it won't be free, but since he's a lord, so he suggests calling it a loan. Iga immediately agrees and offers to start then, and so his own mansion was built. A month later, during the construction of the house, Iga stands and watches the work. He thinks he looks good. He decided to build a mansion in the southern center of Tokuma. There are several reasons. One of them is that it is more convenient to be located near the territory of monsters, as they are going to destroy them in the near future. The main building is still under construction. He came here because the hanare, that is, a room built separately from the main building, was finished. He looks at his house and is surprised. He examines everything and then lies down on the floor. He says the house is quiet and spacious, and that it's pretty good. He begins to wonder what he would use this building for. While he was thinking about the wood being brought in, someone recognizes him and shouts that it's him. The girl runs to him and greets him. She happily shakes his hand and tells him that they have met again. It's Chiyo. Iga says he's glad to see her again. She is the leader of Kimura's transportation, who earns her living mainly in Tokuma forestry. Iga says that means they are transporting lumber to his mansion. Chiyo is surprised and asks if this is really his mansion. Then she gets it and shouts that this means that he is the new lord mentioned on the bulletin board. Iga awkwardly says that she has already read it. Iga Janes has become the new lord of Tokumo, and he would like everyone to work together to get rid of the monsters in the west and develop their country. These boards have been installed in the center of 7 villages in Tokumo. Chiyo tells him that he is very good at pretending and that he should have told her this earlier by patting him on the back. Iga awkwardly apologizes to him. Iga asks if this means that she has read about his plans to get rid of monsters. She says that this is true and that it is a pretty bold idea. Iga says that he would like her to fight because she has the talent of a warrior. The girl does not understand what he is talking about. Chiyo immediately panics and says that she won't be able to. What is he saying? It can't be that she had such a talent, because she was only taught to transport wood. Fight monsters, it's too much for her. Chiyo says awkwardly that she realized he was playing a joke on her. At this point, Iga begins to realize that other residents would probably react the same way if he suddenly told them that they had some hidden talent. No one would believe him. Chiyo goes on to say that even if it wasn't a joke, she still wouldn't be able to fight, even in her wildest dreams. Iga suddenly says that he has a great idea. They sit down and start discussing. He asks her if she knows the basics of awakening talents. He tells her that she needs to challenge herself to reveal her true self. He can help others awaken their talents. This is one of his special skills. Suddenly, he uses the ability of possession, and as if his own spirit emanates from him. Only shamans can use possession, which allows them to freely control their soul to move for unlimited time and distance. He cannot use this high-level skill. This is just an imitation. In his case, it only allows the soul to go straight into the object. It can immediately awaken the hidden talent of a person and allow him to strike medium-level blows. To be precise, when he masters someone with a warrior's talent like hers, then when she uses various martial arts skills, her body will memorize them. Then his soul will leave her body, and she will have to practice these skills on her own. This skill is more effective than he expected. With this, he helped Chan, Amy, and Mori to awaken their powers earlier. But there are 2 disadvantages. Firstly, he cannot help people who are stronger than him. So after a while, it became useless for the guild. Secondly, there are many limitations when performing an obsession. The target should be stationary, and they should both be in a quiet place. And more importantly, the other person should agree to it. Chiyo says she's a little scared because obsession sounds ghostly and all that to her. Iga tells her that, come to think of it, he is an outsider who suddenly became Lord Tokumo, and that asking people like Chiyo to get rid of monsters would just cause unreasonable problems for everyone. Iga says that before she believes him, she must believe in this land, because the people of this land are full of wonderful talents. He promises that he will put everything he has on everyone's potential, and she is the first Chiyo who has all the necessary qualities. He bows at her feet and asks her to help him. Chiyo laughs. He raises his head in disbelief. She says that he is a lord. So why is he bowing to her and asking her like that? Chiyo bows back to him and says it would be an honor for her to work with him. Iga says that this room is really quiet. She agrees. In the end, she agreed to help him. He uses his possession ability. His soul moves towards it. He asks her not to move. She blushes and continues to lie on the floor. His spirit penetrates her. She says that it is strange and that she is afraid. He calms her down and says that everything will be fine. She just needs to relax. She shrinks, moving from side to side. Finally, the whole spirit completely penetrates her. He informs her that he is now inside her. She's breathing heavily. He asks her how it feels, and she says it's hard for her to describe it. He suggests that she slowly tune in. She carefully gets up from the floor. She straightens up completely. He says it's good. He controls her and says that the movements of the female body are a little different and that her breasts are a little heavy, not to mention the bandage. It's a little difficult for him to breathe deeply. Chiyo blushes and asks what he's thinking, and Iga laughs awkwardly and asks her for forgiveness. She raises her hands, and Iga says that now we need to focus on how it feels. Then she takes a few punches forward, her face oozing confidence. Iga slowly lets go of her control and tells her to try it herself now. At first, she feels awkward and unaccustomed. She does not know how to move. Iga says that since this is her first time, she just needs to scream to get rid of the embarrassment. He tells her to pull in her stomach and keep her elbows in a certain position, fix her hip, and then punch. She trains by punching the air and accompanying it with sounds and sighs. Iga says that she is doing the right thing and should shout louder. Chiyo listens to him. As a result, they lie tired on the floor. He tells her that she has strong muscles, She says that she is still not sure. Iga then suggests to see what she has learned today. They stand up. Chiyo stands in front of the mannequins and then prepare to strike. She strikes and sees that the dummies just flew away from her attack. She is surprised and freezes, her mouth wide open. A satisfied Iga stands behind. She turns to him and says she did it. He smiles, comes over and pats her on the head. He says that now she should continue practicing. Chiyo agrees and obeys him. They say goodbye. Chiyo joyfully runs away from him, shouting that they will meet soon. Iga waves at her and tells her that if she continues like this, she will soon be able to fight for real. In the dead of night at the table, Galsiash tells him that for some reason he is so happy today. Shuhaya adds that he returned quite late. Igarashi stands behind him like a ghost, waiting for an answer. He awkwardly says that there was nothing like that and asks Igarashi to stop doing that. Galsiash's research shows a lot of information about its territory. Iga asks Igarashi if his grandfather has recently awakened his magic. She answers him about her grandfather and says that she hasn't been home for a long time, so she's not sure about that. In the village of Nakamura, he meets Igarashi's grandfather. He thanks Iga for looking after his Itsuko. Igarashi's grandfather is called Isao. He is 62 years old. He is a specialist in the field of seed research who has been improving the quality of seeds for this place for many years. It is the reason for the high yields in the village. His destined profession is an agronomist, which is just right for him. Isao is a key factor in the development of this land. He used his 4-receiver skill on it a few days ago. This is a skill for transferring experience. For example, she takes his old group. For example, during the quest, he and Tiana defeat a monster, while Emma, Deli, and Mori are sick and have to stay. As a rule, only 3 people participating in the quest gain experience. Then what happens if the other 3 are marked as receivers? Then they will still gain experience and increase their level. This is a useful skill for territory development. It can mark people with important non-combat skills. The receiver will help them quickly develop their talents. At the moment, there are 3 people: Izao, Galshias, Shuhei. As the level of Izao increases, its production magic will awaken, crop varieties must be improved, and future harvests must be more stable. He asks his grandfather if he has felt anything strange lately with his body. Maybe he suddenly felt stronger. Grandpa thinks about it, and then says that there was nothing like that. He walks back to his room, reflecting along the way that, as expected, he needs to gain more experience. Otherwise, they won't feel any significant effect. Suddenly, Igarashi calls him by name and informs him that the time has come because 25 chosen ones have been gathered. He looks up and sees people, among whom there are warriors, archers, attacking magicians, and healers. The selection structure is as follows: 2 archers, 3 support magicians, 10 attacking magicians, only 1 warrior, 2 healers, and 7 people from the Vanguard Swordsman. There is a reason why he has recruited a lot of attacking magicians. Although they are the chosen ones, they are not equally talented, which is why they will use fusion magic in the future. He wants to increase the firepower of the whole group. He reflects that at the moment their main strength is the people of the 7 swordsmen of the Vanguard. Swordsmen are supported by support magicians. 2 healers can learn full recovery magic in the future, as well as use items. He further argues that if fusion magic becomes possible, they will be the ones to end the monsters. He expects a lot from Chiyo's fighting abilities. He also thinks about her transportation capabilities. She moves a lot, still manages the movement and delivery of wood. Iga intends to increase the number of troops to 100 to complete various tasks. He also needs to stock up on things, food, and necessary equipment. Therefore, Shio's experience in transporting wood is useful. Iga tells her that he is counting on her. She happily says that he can provide it to her. Igarashi is standing behind them with a suspicious look at them. Iga announces to everyone that their training starts right now. Everyone obeys and follows him. On the territory of the Western District, they are fighting monsters. Someone screams that someone just suddenly attacked them. They see the Tabasco Gamma Fire Frog and are scared of its size because it is huge. Iga steps forward and tells everyone to step back. He uses Yoruto's ice magic on the frog. It dies. The ice has gone through. Iga calmly exhales and says how cold it is. The people behind admire him and shout that it's incredible, as expected of their lord. Thanks to Cord's gift, these 25 people have gained twice as many experience points. If they continue in the same spirit, they will soon reach the required level. He shouts to the guys that if they see a monster, then don't attack him right away, but tell him first. Here the crowd begins to shout in displeasure. They ask why. They ask him to let them use their magic and swords to fight. Iga hesitates and uses her skill to check the status. He sees the characteristics of the Yamasaki Vanguard Swordsman and says that his attack power is only 5. Iga reflects that among them, Only Chiyo has enough strength for this, thanks to their training. Her strength is 51. She also wants to try to kill the monster. The others are just as weak. He can't let them fight the monsters directly yet. He asks them all to be a little more patient because they won't be able to fight the monsters alone right now. The crowd gets upset, but they tell him that they understood everything. He continues to fight all sorts of monsters, uses his power and easily kills them. It had been a long time since he had had so much fun during a battle. Although his opponents are just low-level monsters, it's still a lot of fun. As soon as he kills monsters, he immediately checks the characteristics of his warriors. They had gained enough attack power. Then he gives them the command to go ahead and remove the monsters, which they all rejoice at and get down to business, shouting that they have been waiting for this for so long. They fight together with monsters, helping each other and warning their comrades about the danger. One is happy and shouts that he did it, defeated his first monster. As Iga thought, the swordsman would be the first to kill the monsters. The guy brags to the Lord, saying that he did it. Iga tells him it's a good job. Others are also starting to gather. Someone says that now it's their turn. Someone is confident because they are not going to lose to them. They cheer each other up together, offering to do it. After one person succeeds, others will start thinking that they can do it too. As long as they are confident, they will achieve good results. Evening comes. Iga looks at the clock and says that they got too carried away with it and informs them that it's time for them all to return. The crowd is not happy again. Yamasaki asks him to let him hunt a little more. The other also agrees and says that they just have a chance to prove themselves. Iga explains that monsters get much stronger at night, because they guys aren't strong enough yet. Yamasaki looks at Chiyo and gets angry because she killed the most monsters. She annoys him so much. Chiyo says in the background that she is hungry. He abruptly runs away from the crowd. The two call him and do not understand where he is going. Yamasaki tells them to go home first because he wants to kill at least one more. The crowd starts screaming in panic because a huge frog with fiery breath appears behind Yamasaki. People immediately call out to the Lord. He turns around and sees a man carrying Yamasaki in his arms and shouting that this is the monster they saw this morning and that she is too strong. Iga is worried and asks how Yamasaki is doing. He replies that he is badly burned, but still alive. The Lord orders him to take him to the healers. Iga says that frogs are much more aggressive and can secrete magical mucus from their skin. Their protection also increases significantly. The crowd shouts to the Lord to save them. Because there is nothing they can do, they have decided that they must retreat. Iga confidently says that no, they will destroy it all together. Chiyo says her punches can't do any harm. Iga asks again. Didn't she hear him? He decided that they would do it together. Iga thinks, first, they need to lure him to the designated point, the support magicians, and he himself will be the bait. Then the archers will shoot her in the eyes. Then from behind the trees, the magicians will use the ice magic that he showed them. Of course, they won't do much harm, but it will make him think that the enemies are standing over him. Then she will show her belly. As soon as all this happens, Iga gives the order. Tabasco Gama cannot secrete mucus from his stomachs. Now they, the melee team, have reached the goal. They all attack the monster's stomach together so that it bleeds and falls. As soon as they defeat the monster, everyone starts screaming and rejoicing. They hug each other and jump for joy. Yamasaki wakes up and breathes heavily. He says it's so great that everyone has worked well with each other. He regrets that he thought only of himself. Iga supports him and says that if he understands this, then this training can be considered successful. He explains that if everyone else is by his side, everything will be fine, because everyone's attack power has increased significantly in just one day. He privately expresses the hope that they will continue in the same spirit in order to become stronger. Everyone raises their hands to the top and shouts that they will definitely become stronger. They return and meet Isao and Igarashi on the way. He joyfully runs to him and informs him that now he can do incredible things. Thanks to the receiver, today's combat experience was also passed on to Igarashi's grandfather. Iga suggests that he leveled up very quickly. Isao tells everyone to watch carefully. He raises his finger, from which a small ball comes out. Iga is surprised because it is the light of industrial energy. Then the old man uses it over his head and says that if he does that, he now has a lock of hair. Igarashi is shy, takes his grandfather and says that now they need to go home. Grandpa asks Iga on the way if it's cool. Iga thinks he doesn't know how to use it yet, so they can use it for more productive things later. At the mansion, Iga asks what is wrong with him. Is he really afraid? He saddles the horse, but the animal does not want to give in to him in any way. He kicks Galsiash with his hooves, and Iga himself is thrown back so that he falls on his back. This is a black horse given to him by Chief Nakamura. The Lord needs his own horse to explore the territory. Igarashi approaches the horse and says that this is not good. He calls the horse Kokumaru, pats him, and says that she is an outstanding horse and her duty is to help Iga. The horse is right to fawn over her. Galsiash and Iga look at the horse and say that it is cunning. Now Tokuma has finished a busy harvest in early summer. As for his fortification of the territory, he recruited 50 people. So now his cleanup team has 75 members. He shouts at people and asks them to listen to their elders and take their time. The band is doing well, although 75 people form a large group. So there are some problems. It is difficult to keep everything in order. The horse throws him off again. He rubs his head and says that she is a bad horse. One of the guys tells Lord to rest because it must be exhausting dealing with them. Yamasaki is very capable of fighting monsters. His attack power is now 721. He keeps saying he's not going to lose to the frogs again. Kyoko, who shoots with an arrow, now has a strength of 826, and Heju has 801. The statistics of the first 25 people are pretty impressive now. Sano's is 615, Kamakatani's is 701, and Imanagi's has increased to 718. The support of magicians who have mastered many magic spells has especially increased. Increase the attack power of one person, increase the characteristics of the entire team. The bigger the team, the more effective this spell becomes. And the one who has grown the most is Chiyo. She's carrying a huge bear. She asks if the Lord is tired and asks just to leave the rest to her. Her strength is now 1,256. She says she'll take care of dinner. Iga says she's counting on her. Today he wants to check the situation in the western part of the territory. He gets on the horse with Igarashi because the horse won't ride if she doesn't ride it. Iga says goodbye to Chiyo and says that then he will leave everything to her. People stay and offer to become even stronger than the Lord. They want to force the Lord to eat their dust. Iga is inside herself, jokingly angry at them, but with a laugh. They are riding a horse inside the forest to the west of the territory. Natsuna's grandmother is sitting in front of them. Iga says her voice was really charming. She says it's been half a century since she last rode a horse with someone. According to Natsuna, the 3 mountains in this territory are called Hahayama, Anyama, and Mutoyama, and it seems that the north side of Hahayama and Anyama belong to another territory. She says that Hahayama has poor soil, so it is quite barren. It is difficult to grow anything here. Iger replies that he understands. She points her finger at the valley and says she can understand something by watching it from here. Igarashi attracts their attention and asks them to look at where the cave in Hahayama stands. They dismount from their horse and walk towards the dark cave. Iga asks Natsuna if she knows anything about this cave. She replies that not really. She just remembered that her parents told her not to come close because she might collapse. Iger reflects and comes to the conclusion that this cave has been here for a long time. He decides that he will return to examine her later. They return to the mansion. Galshias comes out and tells him that he has a guest. He enters the mansion and sees a certain Bandu Yashitaru bowing and saying that he was sent here by Lord Aoki. Galshias immediately suggests that this is a neighboring lord. Galsiash says that he met him by chance when he was examining Tamira. It seems that his lord needs Iga's help. Bandu confirms his words and says that everything is as Galshias said. Iga asks what kind of help his lord needs. He raises his head and says that he will get right to the point. He asks Iga and his well-trained army to help them get rid of the nest of giant monkeys on their land. He bows again and says that rumors about Tokuma have recently reached Aogi, so he asks him to give them his help. Iga thinks about it. Galshias rejoices. Galshias joyfully tells the Lord that this is a quest. Their first expedition. Iga understands this. He tells the gang to let him think, and that he got an answer in 2-3 days. The guy says he understands this and thanks him. Galshias asks the Lord why he hesitates. In his opinion, it would be useful for them to have friendly relations with Lord Aogi. Iga asks what is the point of income there. He replies that the strength of Aogi is shipbuilding. Iga begins to reflect that this is quite important. When he later turns to the guild for tasks, he will need a lot of ships. Galshias says that if any good groups of adventurers come to Tsukahama and find out about it, it will be a complete mess. So they should take this quest and clear it first. Iga agrees and says that he is right. He thinks out loud, is it really that hard to beat the big monkeys? Because their group is really good. The giant monkey is a deity class monster, but the nest is mostly made up of middle class monkeys. He suggests calling them just monkeys. At their current pace, they will need another 6 months or a year. Galshias is surprised to say that he is so strong. Iga says that if they accept this quest, their people may get injured or even die. Galshias says it's bad. Iga confirms it. Igarashi intervenes here, comes close to him and asks, Then why doesn't Iga deal with them personally? He pushes it away with his palm and wants to object. But then he remembers something and freezes. He reflects. For sure, although he was the weakest in the party, but he is still a mid-level adventurer. Igarashi aggressively says that's it, and Iga pushes her away again and says that he understood everything. Igarashi says that then he should write a letter to Lord Aogi and gather their forces. Thus, their first expedition was determined. A few days later, north of the territory, the whole team moves towards the place of danger and reaches the land of the Og ships. The population is 50,000, which is 20 times more than Tokuma. They are greeted by another and wishes them well to her territory. He tells them that giant monkeys cause a lot of trouble, so he asks them to lend them their power. Iga says what a magnificent castle they have, and the view is beautiful, and the pier is a real masterpiece for him. The old man laughs and thanks him for his words. Iga asks if they don't build ships. The old man replies that they really want to, but they can't find magic ore on their land. Magic ore is a rare ore with magical power. It is used to power magic trains and ships that run in the Imperial City. Iga goes out on the balcony and reflects that they have shipbuilding technologies, which is annoying for him. The next day, in the thick of the forest, they prepare for battle. One guy says that Iga's troops are in perfect condition. Iga smiles and says it's thanks to his transportation staff. Bandu asks him to let him fight him in this battle. Iga thanks him. Iga clears her throat and announces to everyone that they are about to enter the battle. As he said before, this is their first expedition quest, so they should be on their guard. Iga continues her speech, asking them to keep their spirits up, but people are interested in completely different things, asking each other if they went to the Aji store, what kind of bib someone has there, and so on. Here, Iga imagines in her head how she yells at them with an order to respect her lord. He really wants to yell at some mountains right now. He reflects that he needs to consider something for future training. He is sure that they have had such thoughts before. Someday it may be necessary. Then he thinks that they have to obey because he is scary. He will not help them become stronger for real. Here he shouts to everyone that if they see a giant monkey, do not engage in battle with him and immediately inform him if these are medium-sized monkeys. They should work together and deal with him. Yamasaki boasts smugly that he's pretty strong now. Maybe they'll leave the boss to him. The person standing next to him doubts it. He tells him that the last time he said something like that, he does not have time to say anything, as a huge monkey jumps and lands a meter away from them with a loud sound. They turn to him in fear, see the monster growling, and start shouting that the giant monkey is here. Iga says that this is not a giant, but an average monkey. They are even more surprised. Suddenly, a lot of monkeys jump towards them, and people run away in panic. Iga shouts for everyone to calm down, but people keep making a fuss and running. He shouts that everyone is panicking because of the sudden attack. The gang asks him what they should do. Iga reflects that there are 8 monkeys. The enemy forces are scattered because they are running in all directions. He shouts out loud to everyone that everyone should calm down and observe the situation. People surround one monkey. Iga says there are 75 of them against 8 monkeys. So they have no reason to be afraid because they guys can easily kill them one by working together. They are all gathering and preparing to attack. Iga is happy with this attitude. He tells them to show the fruits of their hard work. He gives everyone the command to attack. Everyone starts attacking them and using their abilities. They kill one monkey after another using rocks, bows, and a gun. Iga rejoices and says that they are all incredible. If they keep on like this, the battle will end soon. He says it's his turn now. He needs to get away from the team and face the boss. Suddenly, his horse stops. He asks what happened. He knows that Igarashi is not here, but he asks her to be a good girl and listen to him. But then a huge hand sticks out of the trees. Iga realizes that he has come. Then a huge head comes out, breaking all the trees. The horse gets scared, and Iga himself gets scared with it. This monster destroyed 3 villages in Auga, killed thousands of people. He looked like a giant moving mountain. His hands were like a disaster, destroying everything in its path. A bright ray shot out of his mouth, burning many soldiers alive. Iga looks at the giant monkey and realizes that this monster is the boss. The monkey screams loudly, breaking trees with his fingers. A crowd of people are afraid and panicked by the fact that it is huge. Some even hiccup. They say that even if they work together, there's no way they can kill him. Iga's horse also panics and screams, defying Iga's instructions. He realizes that the last boss has appeared. Suddenly, the horse throws him off. He falls painfully on his back, not understanding what is wrong with the horse. As soon as he falls, The monster's gaze is directed at the horse. The animal also notices this and freezes in fear. The horse instinctively runs away, leaving Iger right in front of the monster. The monster is chasing a horse. The animal is already crying, but it is jumping with all its might. Here, other people realize that Kokumaru is leading this monkey straight to them. They don't understand how to defend themselves. Iga sees this and realizes that they are in trouble. He uses the acceleration ability and runs towards them. Suddenly, the monkey stops and sits down. Iga wonders why he suddenly stopped, and then he realizes that he is not so happy. People also don't understand and ask each other why he suddenly stopped. Someone suggests maybe he has a stomach ache or something like that. The monster is concentrating. Igarashi calms the horse down, but suddenly notices that a ball is forming in the monster's mouth. At this time, Iger runs up and uses another spell, praying that he will make it in time. The monster launches his fireball into the crowd of people, but the flames bypass them because they have some kind of protection in front of them. The attack stops. The barrier collapses. They cough from the abundance of dust and smoke. Yamasaki asks the others if they are okay. They say they're fine, but they don't know how it happened. They look up and see Iga. The smoke dissipates, and they see that Iga's hand is bleeding. They worry and realize that he did it to protect them. Iga looks at his hand and realizes that he is in pain. He says that he managed to protect everyone, but he did not expect to get such a serious injury. He smiles and thinks that Cross would have done it better. Then he says no. None of them can kill this giant monkey because they are not here. Iger realizes that he is weak. Here the gang shouts to everyone, offering to retreat. He believes that they should not stay here anymore. He says they are very grateful to Tokuma for his help, but let them leave the rest to Auga. Someone says that the gang sounds reasonable. Another says that first they have to save the Lord. Someone suggests doing it together. Someone doubts whether he will be able to do it at all. Igarashi intervenes again and raises his hand. Someone from the crowd asks if she volunteered. She briefly replies that this is not the case. She says that they should not retreat. She is sure that Iga will cope. Then the monster swings and punches right at Iga. The crowd looks on in fear and horror and shouts his name. Igarashi alone stands and watches the fight with confidence. The monkey is surprised by the sound and then does not understand at all what happened. Even the ground was broken by his blow, which formed a pit. Iga deflected his blow with his huge fist with his small one. He says how sorry he is that others saw him in such a pitiful state. He suggests that they must have been disappointed in their lord, so he will now show this little, according to him, monster. He will show him the abilities of a former adventurer of an ordinary level. His hand abruptly begins to burn. He summons medium fire magic Kuridak. All his hands begin to burn with fire. The monkey's body begins to burn and burn. He is in agony from pain. He moves quickly, trying to put out the fire, but it only gets worse. The monster swings his arm in a rage. He jumps back along with a piece of earth and prepares his sword, asking him to forgive him for this. He lands on the monster's forehead and plunges his sword into the place right between the eyebrows. The monster falls exhausted on his back with a crash, causing smoke and dust around. Iga lands calmly, but still feels pain in her shoulder. He says he had to show them that he was their lord. He treats his shoulder with magic. He turns around and starts saying that there is nothing to be done, but abruptly freezes. He sees dozens of his men bowing at his feet with their heads down. Yamasaki suddenly raises his head and openly says that, to be honest, they were just a little disappointed. Iga says to himself that everything is as he thought. But then he gets up and shouts that the Lord is really strong. He asks the rest of the people if this is true, and they all answer in unison that everything is true. Even a horse runs up to Iga and rubs its muzzle against his face. Joyful people pick up the Lord and throw him up and catch him again, showing that he is the main character today. Igarashi smiles contentedly. In the evening, a big celebration is held at the temple. All people have fun, rejoice, and enjoy time with each other. Lord Auga threw a party. Iga says with a smile that everyone looks happy. Igarashi and Galshias worked on the contract documents and future business negotiations, respectively. The team has gained a lot of experience. Aji's monsters bring more experience than the monsters in his territory. Thanks to his cord gift, everyone got twice as much experience from the big boss and medium bosses. Especially noteworthy is the strength of Chiyo, who is currently enjoying a rice cake. Her attack power reached 1984 points. The attack power of the first 25 chosen people exceeded 1,000. As for the recently learned spells, now, one of the support magicians has learned a greeting spell that increases the attack power of each team member. As for the archers, because of their increased skill, their shooting range has also increased. They can use a wider range of tactics. Iger reflects that someday they will be able to become stronger without him. They still think his mediocre abilities are impressive. It should take some time for them to catch up. Walking down the corridor, he notices the head of the Aug. He comes up and asks him why he shouldn't celebrate with them. He laughs and says that he really appreciates his help. He says he might disturb the serene atmosphere if he goes down there, so he'd better watch them from here. Lord Aji's words made Iga realize something. The longer he is Lord Tokuma, the more he gets to know Chiyo and the others. All he can do, as their overlord, is take a step back and watch them grow. He needs to put them on the first path so that the connection between him and them is established. So that's what it means to be a lord. From the crowd, Chiyo notices him and happily waves to Iga, who responds in kind. A few days later, they return to Tokuma. A priest greets them and congratulates him on his return. Iga thanks him for taking care of everything in his absence. He says that he will go to rest now. Then Juzu tells him that something is ready for him. A view opens up in front of him, the huge completed mansion of Iga. The owner is happy. The priest says that everything went smoothly. Iga says that this is a very familiar way of life for him. The priest says that he even conducted research on this topic. Iga says the bed looks great. The priest asks if he likes it. Next, they look at the bathroom. Iga is pleased and says that the view from the bathtub is just incredible. Then Igarashi in a towel asks her to let him rub his back. At the table, after Iga has changed his clothes, Galsiash hands him a scroll. He asks what it is. He replies that it is about the ships from Agi. He says that it was decided that they would give them 3 ships, each of which can carry 50 people. The crew for the ships will also be sent. Iga is happy and says it's a great job. Galsiash says it will probably take them several months to arrive. Iga says that it's the end of summer, so they'll be busy preparing for the harvest anyway, and that there are many other things to do besides fighting. A certain girl in uniform and heels approaches the mansion. Her hair does not reach her shoulder, but below her ears. She has a notebook with a pen in her hands. After thinking about it, she says that this is the mansion of Aji Janes. Meanwhile, Iga thinks that's right. He has so much to do, even more than he expected. In the interior areas, which are west of Tokuma, they came to the cave again. Iga asks Shuhei what he thinks about this cave. Since he is familiar with engineering, what can he tell him about this place? Shuhei thinks seriously and starts talking about this place. They are trying to explore the cave that old Natsume pointed out to them. Suddenly, Iga notices streaks on the ground that lead straight ahead. He wonders what it is, if these are footprints. He bends down and begins to feel the ground. Then Shuhei calls him. He raises his head and asks if he has noticed something. He replies that no, he doesn't see anything. Shuhei says that amateurs like them should not do anything because the risk of collapse is too high. He can strengthen it, but he knows literally nothing about this cave. Iga sighs, scratching the back of his head, and says that he understands, and that it is quite difficult. Here Shuhei says that they need to get out of here as soon as possible anyway. His face is full of horror and fear. He has a nervous laugh that turns into hysteria. Iga raises her head, and, not understanding him, asks what he means. He stands next to him. A bright light is burning in front of them. Suddenly, they both notice loud breathing and the way numerous eyes shine out of the darkness, staring at them intently. They freeze for a split second. The horse ran out first, followed by Shuhei and Iga. The second also slipped and fell on the way. Unfortunately, their investigation of the cave has not progressed. Iga arrives at his mansion and announces that he has returned. Igarashi comes out to him and informs him that he has a guest. He asks if it's really someone from the locals. She replies that it's not true, and that it's some kind of stranger. This is the girl in uniform with shoulder-length hair. She gets up as soon as Iga comes in and apologizes for making her wait a long time. She says with a smile that she is pleased to meet you and introduces herself. She is a reporter from the King of Adventures magazine. Her name is Aqua Christia. She came because she wants to interview him. Iga doesn't understand and asks why someone as ordinary as him. Here the journalist laughs and says that she actually knows quite a lot about him, which confuses Iga. She walks quickly around him and examines him, at the same time saying that he is 178 centimeters tall, 27 years old, and his favorite brand of bad habits is rap. He is also a former participant in the 5 Wonders, and his full name is Iga Janes. She cheerfully says that he has now retired and become a lord, led his people to fight over the great ape and defeated her. Iga awkwardly asks how she knows so much about him. The girl says that she is called a fan of ordinary adventurers. They pour her hot tea. She says that because of her hobby, she was put in charge of the beginner and intermediate adventurers section of the magazine. She's the kind of person who thinks more about rising mid-level adventurers than famous high-level adventurers. After a few questions, he found out that she had been a fan of the 5 Wonders for about 4 or 5 years. Iga is disappointed to think that she is a fan of ordinary adventurers. When they start to become famous, her passion cools down. She then abruptly takes Aiga's hand and shouts that Aiga's teaching skills, in her opinion, are wonderful. She proudly says that he can see what a party needs at every moment of its existence, instantly identify suitable talents, assign them to positions, and ensure the balance of the team with the help of his skills. She believes that only someone with a special and far-sighted vision can do this. Aiga is uncomfortable with such pressure and knowledge. She then adds with tears in her eyes that, moreover, Aiga's training is filled with love. This energy penetrates into each member of the team and constantly leads them to new heights. She also says that he always comes at the right time to do what the party needs most. Aiga sighs even deeper and louder from such emotions of a journalist. Aiga likes it. He smiles broadly. His face turns red. He thinks that she understands him so well. Galshias asks him if he is happy. Igarashi standing next to him also does not understand Aiga's emotions. Aiga is modest again and says that he couldn't keep up with his group with such skills, so they aren't that useful in his opinion, so he had to resign. Here the girl is indignant and asks what he is saying. She already stands up and pulls on his shoulders, saying that without Aiga, this hero's party would never have been able to get into the top 10 in the world. Igarashi and Galshias continue to observe this picture. The journalist continues to say that Aiga is simply amazing, snuggling closer and closer to him. Galshias says he is definitely happy. Aiga tries to say that everything is wrong, but she does not let up and proves again that this is true, and that Aiga is really an outstanding person. Here Igarashi looks at the time, then comes up behind Aiga and says that the time has come. Aiga understands what she is talking about and answers her that everything is correct. The journalist asks if Aiga has any other business. He replies that he does. He needs to explore the territory and much more. Aiga wanted to suggest that she postpone the interview for another time, but she does not let up and refuses, asking him to take her with him. Aiga asks the journalist, helping her to get up and saddle a horse, if she really wants to write about this territory. She sits down and says again enthusiastically that no, not at all wrong. But she is interrupted by Aiga and says with a sigh that he thought so. Aqua says that this area will gradually become more famous, so she asks him to let her see it. They come to the forest monster hunting area in the western forest. Everyone is fighting, and Aqua and Aiga are just watching them. She writes everything down in her little notebook and says, so this is where his people train to raise their level. Aiga says that they are his best people. Their current abilities are slightly higher than those of entry-level adventurers. He tells her that they are divided into 6 groups that support each other, and that about 150 people are now ready to fight monsters. The journalist listens to all this with great interest. Her eyes are burning. She decides that she needs to write it all down and gets down to business so as not to miss anything. At this time, Aiga is thinking about the interview. He says that for a quest, they need to be recognized by the guild and allowed to complete tasks. First, they need public approval. That is, they need to be sure that these adventurers are reliable. This is happening because he can't just suddenly come and say that they can kill monsters and ask them to give them a task. Of course, the guild won't accept it. They will slam the door in front of them, saying that it's those weirdos again, and will start ignoring them again. But if we take into account public opinion, if people find out about the search for territory and think that it is quite interesting, then everything will be different. The guild won't be able to ignore them anymore. He hopes this little interview will help their territory. He continued to drive Aqua around the neighborhood. He showed her the rotation of the chosen team and Isao, who now has not one hair, but thick hair behind, which surprised Aiga very much. They're riding a horse, and Aiga says it's getting dark. He asks the girl if she wants to go back to the mansion to rest. She asks him because he's coming back too. Aiga tells her that he needs to build a good reputation in every village, so he joins Yuzo to visit Yamamura. Here the journalist also asks him to let her go with him. Aiga thought she would ask. Aqua begins to say that while they were collecting data, she still didn't understand anything. She asks if Tokuma is really such a wonderful land. Aiga begins to blush. She continues to say that although she knows it's rude, but he kept wondering if it was true that with Aiga's skill, Tokuma, originally a poor rural area in the Far East, has changed a lot. The chosen squad, the expedition, the production capabilities of the farmers. She continues to say admiringly that she is sure that he has changed a lot of things in other areas too, and frankly, he still does not understand why she chose Tokuma. Here the girl screams that the reason is that she is a reporter, so she asks him again to let her go with him until she realizes this. Iga agrees and suggests going to Yamamura first. The girl is happy and clenches her fists. Iga reflects that there is nothing unreasonable in the question she asked, but he believes that his skills are telling the truth. There is something like that in this land. They travel north from Tokuma to the Yamamura area. There, the old man meets them and tells them that in the past Yamamura was a fairly prosperous city, but when he was young, the population was decreasing day by day. Iga suggests that this is possible because there is no industry on this rocky land. Aqua immediately asks the question, "Isn't it strange?" She asks the old man how it was possible to prosper in such a place. The old man also thinks about it and says that this is her truth. Yamamura has no headman and there are only 4 families left. The old man, whose name is Juso, introduced him to all these families. He also used the Eye of the Goddess. The children turned out to be a support mage, an attacking mage, and a swordsman. He hopes that they will increase their numbers and do everything possible to ensure that this village does not disappear. He comes to the house of the largest family in the village, where there are 11 people. They knock on the door. A woman comes out to them with a child on her back. She recognizes the priest from Nakamura. She happily asks if Iga is the new lord. She says that he is quite young, and that he is such a talented young man. She pats him on the back. Iga concludes that she is a strong woman. The kettle is boiling. The woman says that she is all for killing monsters. That's why she wants to ask the lord for a favor. He immediately asks what favor. She is already quietly asking the lord to take one worthless person with him to kill monsters. They look into another room, where a man is lying, whom the woman calls Akira. He continues to lie there, displeased, ignoring her words. She says he's her brother, but he never works and just gives her trouble. Iga sees that his destined profession is a miner. He begins to reflect that his job is not exactly suitable for an adventurer. The woman distracts him from his thoughts and says that it's pretty late, so let him stay and have dinner with them. Iga says that it's not worth it, and that it's time for him to go. Then Aqua asks Iga to agree to stay. He turns to her and sees that she is surrounded by small children. She says the kids are starting to like her. Iga asks Juso what he thinks about it. He calmly says that driving at night is quite dangerous. The woman is glad that everyone agrees, so she offers to eat and sets the table with all kinds of food, like fish, eggs, vegetables. 7 people are sitting at one large table, and 5, including Aqua, are sitting at a small one that is designed for children. Iga appetizingly eats rice and notices that Akira, the woman's brother, does not sit down with them and eats separately in another room. He thinks Akira is the type of person who doesn't communicate well with other people, so he can't work with everyone in the village. He looks at his body and thinks that for such a lazy guy, he is quite muscular. Suddenly, Aqua tells the woman that this village is richer than she thought. She asks if she really thinks that. Iga thinks to herself that this is true, because the houses are quite large. They are well dressed and eat hearty food. He asks what people do for a living here. She replies that they work with mountain hunters and other villages. They buy their prey, then process the meat or fur, and then sell them to other villages. Aqua asks if it's true that there were many more people here in the past. Iga joins her and also asks if this was their only income. He would not be able to support a large population. The woman says that in order to survive in this village, she does quite a lot of things. The man next to her says he's not sure about that. Iga is thinking again, because it's weird. Akira attentively eavesdrops on their conversation. Morning comes. Iga opens her eyes and sees Akira doing something. He lifts himself up and looks more closely. The woman asks if he really woke him up. She asks for forgiveness. Iga asks where he is going. Really to work. She says he's just digging a hole. She doesn't know. Akira is just digging. She would really like him to be able to really make something out of it. Iga says she will go and look at it. The woman is surprised by this. Aqua gradually wakes up. At this time, Iga is already watching how she works with numerous tools. He thinks the sound has changed. He doesn't know much about it, but it looks like he's changing his instrument and the force of the impact according to the hardness of the roto layer. He says he's a professional. Even an amateur like him can tell that. However, no matter how great a talent he has, if no one needs him, then he is useless. Even his family thinks he's useless. He has nowhere to stay. He remembers and says that he was just like him when he was kicked out of the party. Iga comes up to him and asks if he wants to take a break. Akira gets scared because he realizes that he is a lord. He immediately bows and asks for forgiveness. Iga says he's fine and notes that he's really bad at communicating. He sits down and says that everything is fine, so he doesn't have to worry. He offers him a break. He refuses, and then agrees. They sit and relax in silence, letting smoke out of their mouths. Akira says it's been a long time since he last sat like this. Iga takes out a bottle of drink and says that he has it too. Akira thanks and takes a sip with great pleasure. Then Akiro says it's been a long time since he's really talked to anyone. Iga is happy and asks if he is serious, then let him not worry. After drinking a little, Akiro stopped stuttering and started talking very openly. Akiro asks the Lord because he wants to know the history of this village. Iga says yes. He wants to know what made Yamamura so prosperous in the past. Akiro begins to say that his grandfather told him about it. They walk to one place along the edge of the cliff. Then Akiro says they are there. Iga is surprised because she sees a cave in front of her. Iga sees footprints, exactly the same as in the western cave. Akiro says that they used to be miners, but the minerals were exhausted, so the number of villagers began to decrease. Iga says that he has begun to understand the problem. Akiro takes something out and says that he learned it from his grandfather. He hands it to him and says he doesn't know what it's called, but he left it for him. There is a huge treasure in his hand. Then suddenly Aqua appears and shouts, "Isn't this a magic ore?" Akiro is so scared that this ore jumps from his hands. Iga asks her if she was following him. She proudly says that, of course, she followed, and calls it the skill of a real reporter. Then she says it's a magic ore anyway. Iga speaks and asks Akira to go with him for a while. He does not understand if he really wants him to go with him. They come back to the western cave. Akiro says that this is the mine, and it is still possible to mine ore in it. Iga asks if he really means that there is still a chance that there are minerals here. Akiro says that's right. Shuhaya, Iga, and Aqua are happy with this news. Iga says that starting this month, Akiro will start working for him. Akiro asks him if he is sure about this. Iga holds out her hand to him and says that he is looking forward to working with him. Akiro is surprised. A tear flows from his eyes, and his cheeks turn red. He freezes, his mouth wide open. He shakes his hand, and Aqua herself is also happy about this interaction. She screams already in his mansion that, as expected, Iga is simply incredible. She literally screams, standing in front of him, that he has a good lord's attitude towards people and the ability to discover and work with different talents. And the most incredible thing is the huge potential that sleeps deep inside this earth. She praises and says that it's just wonderful that they can start mining magic ore from now on. Soon enough, this place will be noticed by strong industrial countries. She is sure of it. Aqua is very happy, saying that this is a great sensation. Iga says it's great, but he has a request. He voices it. Aqua is outraged why he doesn't want her to write about the magic ore. He says that they have not officially started mining yet. Then other countries, hearing about it, may attack them. Aqua understands this, but it's such a great sensation for her. Iga says that, besides, he is thinking of something much more interesting. He asks her what she thinks about writing exclusively about his territory from now on. Aqua looks at him with a smile. In her mind, she thinks about his eyes, about this passionate Ig whom she admires. Before leaving, she bows to them and thanks them, promising that she will write an excellent article. Iga thanks her for her help too. Then Aqua remembers something and asks him to take something and hands her the newspaper, saying that this is the last issue of the King of Adventures. If he hasn't read it yet, Iga thanks, reveals and sees that Cross's group is still in 9th place. Aqua says it's because they kicked him out. Iga's eyes widen. Aqua says that Mori suddenly disappeared in Ace.